Joe Biden, I would say, has messed up, has definitely managed the possible rail strike incorrectly. And I want to discuss kind of the different dynamics of this because it's important. We are coming up on, I think December 9th is when it would begin, a rail strike that is fighting for paid sick leave, just a basic thing for these rail workers. And because the railroad companies refuse to give basic levels, a basic level of decency to their workers, our economy could be cost $2 billion a day, as long as the strike goes on. And I needed everyone to think about it in those terms. It's not, oh my gosh, the rail workers are going to cost the economy $2 billion per year. It's the railroad companies are going to cost us $2 billion a day. I said that wrong, a day. Because they are the ones who are not rational in this situation. Now, understanding that, I do not envy Biden's position. I do not envy him having to decide between basic demands from the unions and the economy being hurt severely. Because as president, ideally, you represent all the people, and it would hurt a lot of all of the people when the strike happens. But also, if you're pro-union, you want them to be able to leverage their power to get better working conditions. And so it's a tough situation to be in. I've seen some people acting like it's not complex at all. It is. Biden is in a tough situation, but he has managed it incorrectly. Here's how. I think he should have earlier, because we knew this was coming up. Started reading a while ago that this was coming up, and he averted the first possible strike. And then if an agreement wasn't made, we knew another one was going to happen. And all of this time, there was no talk about it. And then now Biden's scrambling and trying to get Congress to enforce one of the previous proposed agreements onto the multiple parties. And what that would mean is the strike wouldn't happen because Congress would act to make sure that it can't. But an agreement would be formed that some of the unions aren't happy with. It does increase benefits, but it doesn't get them the paid sick leave that they were asking for. And if Biden had come out earlier and started using his voice as one of the most heard person in the country, listened to person in the country, he, I think, could have done a better job of bashing the companies over and over publicly for not agreeing to a more reasonable agreement and prevented the strike. Now, we're only a few days away from it, so you see why you're panicking. You see why, okay, I really want the union to get what they want to get, but it seems like they're not going to, so I also want to prevent the economic damage. But to do that, you got to undermine their ability to leverage their power as a union, which is negative. So again, the summary is, and then we'll read a little bit from Vanity Fair. I think it's a timing issue and Biden's ability to use his voice issue. Because standing here right now, you understand the tensity and the complexity and the difficulty. But if this had been addressed earlier, maybe the company could have been strong-armed into it. But again, the not evil, but that term's not great to use. The antagonist in this situation is the railroad companies. That is the antagonist. Now, if the unions were demanding something crazy, we want to get paid $3,000 per month, then we could have a different discussion, but they're just demanding a basic level of decency. Here's from Vanity Fair. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer promised on Thursday morning to move ASAP on legislation that would avert a costly railroad strike, but allow railroad companies to continue exploiting their employees. The Senate cannot leave until we get the job done, the New York Democrat said on the Senate floor, a day after the Democrat-led House passed a similar bill undercutting railroad unions at the Biden administration's direction. Time is of the essence, Schumer said, and then it continues. One of the things it highlights is what some more progressive members of the government are pushing for is the agreement we should be enforcing upon the multiple parties negotiating is one that includes paid sick leave. The unfortunate thing, and this is the other antagonist in this story, is the Republicans in the Senate would not likely agree to that. There are some that would, but they probably want to get to their 60 vote threshold. And so instead, they were going to have to do a compromise, which leaves out paid sick leave. And that's just super, super unfortunate. And I think I understand why there's a lot of anger towards Biden, the Democrats, the Republicans in this situation, because come on, companies like the railroad companies that have made so much in profits over the last, few years can afford to treat their employees just slightly better. And they're extremely understaffed at these companies, meaning that people's schedules are insane and they're not able to build a life around them, and they're not allowed to take paid sick leave and all of these things. And so that is why we have representatives. They're supposed to be able to step in these situations and do the right thing and stand up for the person who needs to be stood up for, and that just hasn't happened. So it's been a failure all around. Where you want to put the placement, how much goes here, how much goes there is up to you, but overall a failure for sure. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before any of the clips are uploaded to YouTube, plus get access to an extra full show every Saturday that only members can see, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Luke Beasley. That's patreon.com/Luke Beasley, and there is a link in the description.